Hello, this is Midday News. Thanks for joining us. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has agreed to visit Papua New Guinea at the invite of the Prime Minister James Marape. Netanyahu made the announcement. Has agreed to visit Papua New Guinea. Netanyahu made the announcement last night during the opening of the PNG embassy in Jerusalem. Netanyahu is looking forward to visiting PNG and strengthening the bilateral relationship between the two countries. Prime Minister James Marape's invitation was made to have Netanyahu officiate at the groundbreaking ceremony for the Israeli embassy in Port Moresby. PNG will provide Israeli a piece of land to build its diplomatic mission in the country. The education system in the country has expanded significantly since independence, now enrolling more than 2 million school-age children in 12,800 registered schools with close to 65,000 teachers. Minister for Education Jimmy Huguru revealed this during the recent launch of the 50-year vision for education system transformation in the country. He has attributed this increase to the reforms in the public service machinery, which has seen the decentralization of education service delivery to the provincial and district levels.
While these figures look promising, it has adversely resulted in an increase in the number of school leavers at various levels of education system each year. Minister for Education Jimmy Uguro also acknowledged that this expansion in the education system has not produced desired outcomes, specifically in improving quality and relevance. Minister Uguro says this calls for a major relook at how children are being educated to be productive and responsible citizens, noting that the country's education system has been shaped by various historical, colonial, political, and structural developments in the last 48 years. The problems and achievements of PNG's current education policy can only be appreciated in relation to the history of educational development in the country. He says tracing the development of our education system in the last 50 years and reflecting on the gaps, limitations, and findings is important in understanding the current and future direction of education in this country. Freddie Mo, TVWAN News.
Number One Super this week provided access to information about superannuation services to members of the Royal PNG Constabulary, and as health staff had the opportunity to collaborate with the police personnel, especially NSL members in the New Guinea Highlands region throughout August. These engagements are part of NSL's commitment to improving the accessibility of its service across the country. The engagements were concluded between 15 to 30 August 2023, with NSL's teams setting up information booths at police stations in Kokopo, Rabaul, Arawa, Manus, Kavieng, Buka, and Keravat. NSL Chief Executive Officer Paul Seya thanked PNG, RPNGC in New Guinea Highlands for collaborating with NSL to ensure their staff in the region had the opportunity to easily access our superannuation services. Members from the RPNGC had the opportunity to update their details, submit applications, gather information about superannuation services, and talk to the Number One Savings and Loan Society's team about their short-term savings needs. Progress must be measured in order for a government policy to be considered successfully, says the Chief Secretary Ivan Pamliu. Pamliu made these remarks during the Public Service Housing Policy workshop yesterday in Port Moresby. He said the housing policy spearheaded by the Department of Personal Management and the National Research Institute will be measured when a public servant is given a key to a house. He said, however, affordability of owning a house will still be a challenge.
Real progress will be ticked off when we actually build houses, when we actually hand over keys to families, when we actually open doors so that our public servants will go into those houses. We must accept that there are categories of public servants where affordability will always be a challenge. We must look at institutional housing. Subsequent to that decision, I believe, is the need to build important management practices that preserves and sustains institutional housing stock so that it doesn't get lost in transition.
Australia's economy is showing more signs of the pain many people are living daily as higher interest rates and rising prices take their toll. GDP data out today shows growth has contracted for 2 quarters now, and if you take away the impact of more people coming into the country, thanks to strong immigrations, we are in a per-person races.
Australian businesses are having to cut back production.
There has been some caution by our clients to purchase like they used to.
De Lorenzo Hair distributes to about 2,000 salons across the country and exports overseas.
Overall, the average spend is less per client.
That's causing the economy to slow. It grew by 0.4% in the 3 months to June, but the annual growth rate fell from 2.5% to 2.1% under pressure from high prices and interest rates. Taking into account the jump in the population due to higher migration, GDP fell by 0.3%. Household consumption growth is weaker, increasing by just 0.1%.
We know that people are under pressure from the rising cost of living and higher interest rates as well.
Consumer spending on discretionary items continues to fall, with vehicle purchases the only bright spot.
On average, we're spending less, we're earning less and we're doing less once we take inflation into account.
The release of the economic data comes a day after the Reserve Bank left the cash rate unchanged at 4.1% for a third consecutive month. 12 interest rate rises between May last year and June this year has definitely put a squeeze on households. But economists expect the central bank will now stay on hold and there may even be rate cuts by next year. At De Lorenzo, staff recently got wage rises, but if there's a further economic contraction, the business will have to make other cuts.
We might have to take some drastic measures, purchase less, make less, and keep our costs down.
It's a common story across the country.
The new head of Qantas, Vanessa Hodgson, has had her first day on the job following the early departure of long-term CEO Alan Joyce. Ms. Hodgson's pledge to win back on trust of the customers comes as pressure mounts on the airline's board to claw back some of the performance bonuses paid to Mr. Joyce.
A leadership shake-up of minimal proportions faced with the same colossal challenges.
Qantas and the board need to restore trust in the organisation. It's a good opportunity for the new CEO to take action.
The former Qantas CFO, now first ever female CEO, has promised a new day for the spirit of Australia.
Our job is to get the balance right between looking after our customers, you, our people, and the business itself.
But tipping the scales are a host of outstanding issues.
There has been quite a bit of reputational damage, so the board has to respond to that and really answer to shareholders what is going to happen with Mr. Joyce's bonuses.
Pressure is growing on Chair Richard Goyder to claw back some of Alan Joyce's performance bonuses, linked to a regulatory investigation alleging Qantas sold thousands of tickets for flights even after it had cancelled them.
If the federal court action does find that there has been wrongdoing or oversight that hasn't been managed appropriately, then remuneration should be clawed back.
The former CEO is expected to collect about $22 million this financial year. His replacement appears to have brought some hope that she will get the balance of priorities right.
We know that the Australian public holds the role of the pod in a great deal of respect. We're looking forward, and the first signs are encouraging that Vanessa acknowledges the role that we play.
The spirit of Australia's reputation as one of this country's most respected companies now flies in the wind. And for a brand built on customer service, Vanessa Hudson's first priority must be restoring that confidence. Customers say making airfares more affordable could be a good place to start.
In sports, New Zealand and Fiji have overcome their opponents to play the finals of the OFC Under-23 Men's Olympic Qualifier in Auckland. Fiji beat the Solomon Islands 3-0 at the Go Media Stadium Mount Smart in the second semi-final, and the Holy Whites overran Vanuatu 8-0 in the first semi-finals.
Captain Etonia Dogalau was the hero for the Fijians, scoring twice, one in each half, to help secure passage through to the final, where his side will attempt to qualify for the Olympics for the second time, having represented Oceania at the 2016 Summer Games in Rio de Janeiro. Solomon Islands could not keep up with Fiji's classy style of football despite many attempts to score. Fiji proved too strong to advance to the finals. It was an easy win for New Zealand after an impressive 8-0 win over Vanuatu in the first semi-final. Darren Brazley's side was dominant from the outset and cruised through to Saturday night's final at North Harbour Stadium against Fiji.
So first time people are playing for New Zealand, in a semi-final of an Olympic qualifier, so it's awesome. We look like we got through pretty safely and move on to the next one.
Vanuatu avoided any further carnage and will at least take some satisfaction that they only conceded twice in the second spell after their first half struggles. Brazley was thrilled with his side's performance. Rex Litter, TV1 Sports.
This ends the Midday News. Join us at 6 for more.
Is one of the most important musical figures of our time.